Hello and welcome back to the Rural Stacker channel. Today we're going to talk about why I prefer to stack precious metals. Welcome back to the Rural Stacker channel. Thanks for stopping in, neighbor. Hello everyone and welcome back. Let's have a discussion on why I like to stack precious metals, why I got into it, and what my plan is with it. So, originally I got into looking at precious metals as an alternative form of wealth preservation. I was looking at my finances, you could say, and I realized that I was heavily invested in the stock market between just regular brokerage accounts, IRAs, 401ks, so on and so forth. And while I was diversified across different asset classes in the stock market, the majority of my wealth was in the market. And yeah, I had some savings, like normal, but I was a little bit worried about being so heavily invested in the stock market. When I had rental property, I didn't feel as bad, but I had sold that to develop some land around my house, that put on a garage, so on and so forth like that. And at that point, I had a small net worth in physical land, but I did not have anything outside of that little chunk of property that is really surrounded by land that my family owns. So realistically, I'm not going to ever get rid of that. So I don't really count that in my net worth, because selling, I could sell to a family member, but that's not really going to be a long-term play for me. So when I sold the rental property, my net worth shifted heavily into the only asset class that I had was stocks, and I wanted to diversify. Now I'm still looking for land. Want to eventually have my house on property that I own, but for right now that's not the case. So I am using it as a store of wealth, and as also diversification. I see that there is obviously potential for gold and silver to increase in price, whether that's because these are slowly being less and less valuable, I don't know, probably, but also just because silver has plenty of uses. I think gold is a good solid money, that's for sure. But it's a way to get money out of the system. Now, I think ultimately the plan would be to get a property, build a house on it, and that would diversify. A lot of people's biggest investment, if you will, is their house. And since I don't own the property that my house sits on, can't really count that. And being the scales heavily weighted in the stock market, it pays off for me. But I think we're all kind of weary of a crash, and diversification is always a good thing among metals, with gold and silver and copper and so on and so forth. But between stocks and bonds and having some real estate in there, your own business, those are all different ways to diversify as well. And you can diversify inside asset classes as well as investments as a whole. So that's one of the reasons why I got into gold and silver stacking, because I have a problem with saving these. For some reason, I can't. When I build up a decent size of money, whether that's in cash or whether that's in savings account, I tend to spend it. Now, spending it, I don't mean that I blow it. I'll spend it on some preps, some food, the bills, bettering my life in one way or another, investing for retirement, rainy day funds. Those are all different ways that I spend my money. And yeah, there's some guilty pleasures in there as well. Who doesn't have them? But I like to use gold and silver as a way to imply some forced scarcity in my life, right? So for a while, what I was doing is if I had any leftover money at the end of the month and I didn't see a need from it elsewhere, whether bills are paid, stockpiling some food or whatever in that way, I would spend it on precious metals. Because for me, I don't have a local coin shop close to me, so trying to get rid of this easily, there's some friction there. Talked about that in the past before, that I like to have. And I use it pretty much as a forced savings plan with the benefits of diversification, getting some pretty artistic bars, some generational wealth that I can stack up, things that make cool sound, right? I guess the coolest thing you could do with your dollar bills is fan it. I don't know, that's not nearly as cool as clinking around some silver. But yeah, I use it as a forced savings account, creating that scarcity in my life. I find when I'm a little bit behind the eight ball, if you will, whether that's intentional or not, whether that's reality or not, it makes me work a little bit harder, cherish the different jobs that I have, the different ways that I'm making money, keeps me grinding, if you will. And sometimes, I'm thankful that my life is good enough that that's not all the time, but there's some times where life might be going a little too well for me, and I want to be able to, get that driving motivation back. And sometimes doing that by, forcing that upon myself, by stretching myself a little bit thin on making a 1 ounce gold coin purchase, or picking up some beautiful Scottsdale mint vortex bars, making that a little bit tougher on me. Really, I find benefits me in the long term, right? If you haven't done that, and you have a little bit disposable income, try tightening it down a little bit. It's kind of, I guess you could say, like a forced budget, right? And I'm allocating every dollar that I have, if you will. But for me, it seems to work. It doesn't always do that, and you can definitely get your emergency fund a little bit too low than what you like. And yeah, next month I'm going to apply some forced scarcity by taking some of my paycheck and putting it right in this pile here. And that way, there's less disposable income that seems to just get lost whenever I have it. So yeah, I'll put a little extra to my cash fund and force that scarcity mindset out a little bit more. And once that gets built up and there's, nothing else that needs caught up on or bills paid and everything like that, and I got a little extra change, if I don't want something, maybe I'll spend it down again on some silver or gold, and get that forced scarcity mindset firing. Let me know down below. Have you ever done something like that? Do you like to make it a little bit more challenging for yourself at times, just to see how you can handle it, or does that motivate you to go out and earn a little bit more? It does for me. Be interested to see what you have to say. That's all for today. Have a good one. Until next time, keep on stacking and have a great day.